If you're afraid of success, go ahead and tune out because this segment is not for you. Every year, Higher Ed talks about change, but Insights EDU 2026, that's not another conference. It's the catalyst. It's where fresh data drops, revealing real insights on how modern learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. And here's a spoiler for higher ed leaders. Most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach, February 17th to the 19th, 2026, in Fort Lauderdale. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, 40 sessions, zero fluff. We're talking unfiltered strategy, AI integrations, and forward thinking built for the leaders who want to disrupt before they're disrupted. So here's the question. Are you ready to lead transformation or be overtaken by it? Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. The EdUp experience has delivered over 1,000 episodes with higher ed leaders from around the world. Now you can support the show for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life when you join before December 31st, 2025. You'll enjoy ad-free early access to episodes. Go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and secure your lifetime rate today.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business again and again and again. This is Dr. Joseph Lucio back with you on another episode. It's been a little bit since I've been on. In fact, my guest co-host here has had to co-host with Elvin Freitas, which is a vastly different experience, but also a good one, but not as good as when I do it. I mean, Elvin, he's a better producer. Let's be honest, he's a better producer. I'm the better host, Elvin, and I mean that in such a great way, and you know it. We're like a band. I'm the front man, and he is the rest of the band, where we couldn't do it without each other. And I am really happy today to do this with my guest co-host, who's back again. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Brent Ramden. He's the CEO of Education Dynamics. Oh, that's the wrong, but I think, see, now this is what I'm talking about, Brent. Elvin messed with my sound effects. That's why I say the better host.
That's fine. We're gonna blame him for this. By the way, I'm not stepping into comparing you guys at all. I enjoy co-hosting with either one of you.
You know what? You'll enjoy me more because he wrote on this Brent's button. That's what he wrote there and why I pressed it. And it says, love Elvin, Brent's button. So all that comes from him. Let me introduce you the way I do it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Brent Ramden. He's CEO of Education Dynamics. That's how you do it, Elvin. Brent, welcome back.
Thank you, Joe. I am excited to be on this episode because I think we have an amazing guest speaker with us, and I cannot wait for us to pick his brain in terms of the many evolutions of higher education and really what we're going through now and what he sees happening in the future. By the way, I'm getting really good at not revealing the name of our speaker until you do.
Well done, my friend. That was actually fantastic. So good that we have to bring the speaker and our guest in right now. He may be, if he is not he may be one of the very few longest serving college presidents in the nation, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to actually see how far we can get with that when this episode is done, but we were talking about it earlier. Here he is. He's Dr. Roger Parrott. He's the president at Belhaven University. Roger, welcome to an EdUp. Mike, how are you?
Hey, what a treat to be with you guys. I'm honored, and you have a long track record of success and reach with your podcasts, and so what a joy to get to be with you.
Well, thank you for being here, and it's such getting insights from different institutions at different journeys and different ways of serving students is really the beauty of higher education. Like that's the true beauty of what we do. Tell us about Belhaven University. Who do you serve? How do you serve them?
Yeah, we are a Presbyterian-based university in Jackson, Mississippi. Although broadly evangelical, I would say, in the sense of the commitment to faith, but not denominationally dominated. We serve about 1,000, a little over 1,000 traditional students on our campus, and then probably another 1,200 or so online in a variety of online programs, because we just believe in making education accessible to people. And then a bunch of students, maybe 1,500 or more, in master's programs, ranging across the typical MBA and healthcare administration to sports administration, and just started a new counseling degree that's really gone well, and launched a brand new master's in AI, which is just rolling out this month. And then we got two doctoral programs, one in education, one business. We also serve a number of students who are here working in the United States, who are international people who are needing to go continue on their education while they're here. You can't offer online programs to them, but we offer hybrid programs to them to allow them to come in and to continue their jobs. And so total, we're about 4,500 students, and in Jackson, Mississippi, and football team is winning this week, so everything's good.
Amazing.
Everything's amazing, Roger. I think what you meant to say. But I guess I'm going to pass it to Brent. But one of the first questions I have is around the idea of getting back to a faith-based education. We're seeing lots of disruption in our country right now in so many different ways, attacks on this, attacks on that. And one of the really amazing things that I think we've seen over the last, maybe call it 18 months, I remember having conversations with presidents of faith-based institutions that were talking about closure a couple years ago, because they were one of the segments that the predictors were going, those institutions are in the most trouble. And then all of a sudden there was a resurgence. Are you seeing that still? Are students really interested in this combination of education and faith and seeing them move forward to their future?
I think they are with institutions that are serious about their faith. I think a lot of faith-based institutions like the historical connection, but they don't really live it out in the classroom, in the residence halls, and the way they conduct their lives and their priorities and what they teach. And that's so watered down, I'm not sure students are all that interested in that. But a place like us, which is serious about faith, we teach from a foundation of biblical truth in all of our courses, and we also are equally committed to biblical grace. Too often Christians have been so strong on their truth, they forgot Jesus said he came full of grace and truth, and we want to be as serious about grace as we are about truth, letting students develop as God works in their lives, and really prepare them for a foundation for their career that's going to have stability. And I think that's what biblical principles do, is gives them stability through the ups and downs and challenges of life. And so, yeah, we're seeing we've got record enrollment this year, which is terrific. On a lot of levels, traditional, online. We've got growing programs. So, I think the margins are thin financially for private schools. I don't have much of an endowment. Every time schools would complain about their endowment went down, I don't worry about it because we didn't have much to go up. But my feeling has always been, if students don't want to pay for it, you probably shouldn't be offering it anyway. And so I don't have a problem. In fact, I kind of embrace being tuition driven, because if they don't want to pay, if we're not of value, we shouldn't be doing this. Other people can do it. But they seem to be, they want to be here, the kind of supporting environment we have, beautiful campus, safe environment, lots of support, giving faculty who are here not for research and publishing journals. They do some of that, but they're here to invest in students, really disciple them. And so I think, when the combination is done right, students want a faith-based institution. And when it's done in a lukewarm way, they kind of run the other direction.
I love that. And Roger, I love the balance between faith and values and then the pragmatism that you also expressed at the end, which is, hey, students aren't looking for either or, they're looking for and they're looking for essentially a journey that prepares them for the future. You've been at Belhaven, longest serving president. If you were to sort of look at the period that we're in, comparing it to maybe 10, 20 years ago, when we didn't have the demographic cliff, when we didn't have all these elements, it seems like like Roger, you really just leaned into your identity and you're true to exactly who you are as an institution. And then you blended that by just offering the right programs the right way to students. I'm sure there's 1,000 other things related to what I just mentioned there, but how do you see how do you see success? Because another year of record enrollment, and obviously a big part of that is you and your leadership. Why do you think Belhaven is where most other, faith-based institutions may not be right now?
Well, I think you got to build the right culture, and culture takes time. I mean, it's not all that hard to build buildings; it's expensive. It's not all that hard to build programs, but building culture takes time, and it takes bringing the right people together. And that's really probably the biggest change over the 30 years I've been here that we've made is in culture of embracing what our calling is. Why are we here? We're here for the students. We're not here to run our business of higher education and have them fit into our cookie cutter. So we're here to meet their unique needs, and they're all different. I got 4,500 students. They're not all the same. They're all very, very different. We're here to embrace them as they are and to show them the love of Christ and the grace that is accessible to them and to help them grow and become the people God designed them to be. And so we've become one of the most ethnically diverse small colleges of the South. And it's not that we run programs on that kind of thing. It's not that we run activities. We just treat people like Jesus would treat them when they come. And so I think it's those things together. So that side of the culture where a faculty really cares deeply for those students, they kind of own them in a way of wanting to be their mentor, their guide, their discipler. So it's that side, but it's also then building a corporate culture that allows us to respond to the market. And that's kind of also where we're unique. We have over time built a culture which I say we are a university, but we run like a business, and we really do. We move very fast. We have expedited process of decision making. We try to get decisions closest to the people who live with them. We don't have a lot of structure. As I said, we don't have committees to prove we don't trust each other. So there's no faculty committee that oversees athletics or healthcare or finance. There's no committee that you've got to report. When schools, I hear presidents and others talk about, I got it through the committee. If getting it through the committee is success, you're on the track to failure. It's not going to work. You've got to get past that. So getting it done is success. And I'll give you a quick example, which is kind of a fun one. I have a new dean of school business, terrific guy, and very innovative, built a lot of programs where he's been through the years. He was here about 6 months, and he was talking about a master's of data science and a fully online, kind of self-paced, rapid fire one. And so he and the provost worked on it a little bit, and provost told me she said he wants to make a presentation to us about this degree. I said, great, let's set it up. So we set up 45 minutes. I had the provost there, I was there, CFO was there, and VP for marketing. And he made the pitch, went through his slides, laid the thing out. We asked a few questions. We talked about price point a little bit, and after about 45 minutes or so, we got done. And I said this. I looked around the room. I said, "Everybody good? I'm good. I think this is fine." And everybody said, "Yeah, we're good." And so I told him, I said, "Brett, we're ready to go." And he said, "Well, what's the next step?" I said, "Well, the next step start." He said, "Well, what process does this have to go through?" I said, "This was it. You just had it.
Victory!"
And and then I asked him, I said, "You've had this developed for quite some time. You had it developed at your other institution. Why didn't you do it there?" He said, "It's so stuck in committees. They're still thinking about it, and they're missing the market." That's kind of how we operate. We operate very, very quickly, and we operate streamlined. Everything's transparent. You got to keep open communications. You got to tell people what you're thinking about. You got to tell people when it works. You got to tell them when it doesn't work. And so I'm very open with the faculty and staff about what's going on with the institution. And, having been here long enough, I kind of know what my board will go for and what they won't. And so, we don't have to do that. But in 30 years of being here, we have never had a divided vote in our board ever
Wow.
about any issue. If we hit a point where we feel like there's a disagreement, we stop, we wait, we pray, we give it time, we put more energy into it and bring it back later. We've never had to have divided over anything.
Raj, I can play your last 3 minutes on loop. And I feel like that's just a lot of learning for where we are in the moment as an industry. We talk about all the change that's happening in higher ed, yet what we sometimes don't change are our internals in terms of how things operate. I also think you may have shared a little bit of the secret of why you're amongst the longest serving college presidents. You empower people, you drive to decisioning, and you do it in a pragmatic way there that you execute, you focus on the outcome. I do want to go back to something you shared a few minutes ago, where you shared a little bit about the university and the makeup of the student population. And I found it intriguing in terms of how you shared it, because it highlights to me, Roger, that you also think of micro strategies within the macro strategies. And let me explain what I mean by that. You describe your traditional population, your online population, your grad population, and your international population. And we sort of consider the learner that's going into higher education today to be the modern learner. They can be in any one of those buckets. And I was just wondering, how do you think about growth at Belhaven as you think about a diverse student population, and diverse in all sense, meaning age, they could be working, they could be looking at a career change, or they can be coming out of high school. And I'd love to get your perspective there. And how do you see, today and potentially into the future?
Yeah, I think our marketing strategy is much more about targets to those micro populations. Let me take the traditional to begin with. We are one of only 34 universities in the country nationally accredited in all four of the major arts: music, theater, visual art, and dance. It's us, it's University of California, it's Ohio State, and it's Juilliard and schools like that. It's pretty remarkable where we've come with that. But within those, we target each. We look contribution margins on each of those arts. They're very expensive to run. How do we keep our costs low? How do we target the growth? What's the ideal size in those? And those go up and down. So we kind of divide our traditional student body into three groups. We call them arts, athletes, which is about another third, and then we call the last group multi-talented, which means they're not arts or athletes. They do a lot of things. And so we have targets on each of those, but we also have targets within regions where we are. So I don't think there's one, massive strategy that moves the dial. I think those days are long gone. I mean, I used to enjoy those days. They were fun when they happened, but I think they're long gone. I think you've got to reach out and really speak to students wherever they are. I mean, our adult population that's online, primarily single mothers who are trying, so our marketing message to them is do it for them. You're not doing it just for you. You're doing it for your kids. You're doing it for your future. You're doing it for them, the people in your family. That's a very different marketing message than, of course, traditional students. Everybody's interested in value at this point. Everybody's concerned about costs. So we're low cost in everything. We haven't started a degree. Maybe I think our counseling was, but everything else, master's degrees are all at 10 grand. That seems to be the magic touch point at this point. We'd rather scale. And if you can scale, you can do it. And if you have a system of back office support for an online menu, you can't, the problem I see with small schools is they say, well, we're going to go online. So they're very tentative and they put out 2 or 3 degrees. You can't make it with that. You've got to have a book of business. And if you don't have a decent menu of degrees, you're not going to find the students because you're spending as much money to find one for one degree as you do offer them 20, but you're losing a bunch because you don't have the degree. It's I mean, the marketing is shifting, and it's shifting even recently because you got this whole issue of, is college worth it out there?
Yep.
Well, yeah, college is worth it. College is worth it because of what you're going to learn to think and how you're going to invest in your mind for like 50 years. It's not about just a skill that may or may not last. And then you've got this whole feeling of the media has skewed the whole understanding of debt so that people are scared to death of debt. And we have so many walk in this door. I'm not going to take any loans. I'm not going to take any loans. Well, let's talk about that. In fact, I wrote a 17-page paper and did a 5-page series on the real cost of college. It's on our website. It's not hard to find under admissions. But looking at the real questions, and I can prove to a family who comes to our traditional program that they will save $60,000 to come here versus go to the state university. I can prove it to them. I can show them the numbers. It's in the document. And a couple of quick ways we do that is, first of all, they're going to graduate in 4 years. And the average at state university is 5.5. So you just paid more tuition there, more time away, and you were a year, 18 months less in the workplace. Secondly, we offer something that nobody matched us with us when we came out with this. We were surprised. We offer a double major. If you take a double major and it pushes you into the 5th year, you go tuition free. And
Wow.
I just think students got to be more broadly prepared in this arena, and especially with our role in the arts. I mean, I've got dancers who want to start a business, a dance school. Well, take a business degree along with your dance degree, or a communications degree along with your film degree. Or I've got students putting together all kinds of combinations. It's interesting. And we went from like 5 students doing double majors to probably 30% of the population now doing double majors because they had that opportunity. And then the other thing we did this during COVID. You know, we got into COVID and everybody's so depressed. And then we got into the 2nd year and I thought, they're going to come in here so depressed. We got to get their eyes up, looking on the future and out of the doldrums. And I said, let's just offer free masters to all of our traditional undergraduate students who graduate. And that was another one of those decisions. We came up with that like on a weekend, I thought. We got the team together Monday. We talked about it and we said, yeah, that can work. We ran some numbers on it real quick. We realized we could afford to do it. And then we said, it's one of those things. Okay, we'll roll it out a year from now and whatever, like schools usually do. And we looked at it a day or two. We said, that's crazy. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And this was like 10 days before school started. Let's just do it in 10 days. And we started, and it's been a great success. I got a ton of students now who could never afford a master's degree who get a free online master's degree with us, and they can do it either immediately when they graduate, they do it 5 years later, 10, 20 years later. We don't care. They can bank it. And they can do any one of our online master's degrees for free. So you put all that package together, it's a $60,000 difference. I think schools like mine have to get more creative to combat the issue of cost. Because if you take cost out of the issue, I'm so much of a better experience than a big state university. Just night and day, hands down. I can show you all kinds of reasons, They're interested in size, sizzle, sports, and status. And I'm interested in character, curriculum, carrying Christ. I'm interested in totally different values they're interested in. It's such a better experience, but you got to get cost out of the equation. And so we've just had to work creatively to do that. And you run thin margins because of it. And it's just the way higher ed is going to be from now on out. It's not going back how it was. This is it.
Roger, another 3 minutes I can play on loop, because I think you're challenging the status quo by being unafraid to end what is decades of norms by rolling out innovative new structures. And you beat me to the punchline. I was going to ask about that free master's. And I love the way it's positioned on your website, saying, the bachelor's may not be enough to advance you in your career. And I had no idea you can bank it. So that is truly remarkable. What sort of uptick are you seeing in terms of students who complete, or it's probably too new, I guess, Roger, to know what percentage of students will move on and take up that option?
Yeah, we've got some numbers on it. I don't want to quote them to you because I probably don't have them accurate. But, it was a little stronger at the beginning. It's kind of leveling out now. As students are a little more used to it, they're figuring out they can do it. I have to argue with the auditors because they want to book it as an expense for the future. And as I tell them, what's the expense? Tell me the actual expense.
Mm-hmm.
I've already got the programs anyway. Putting one more student in an online class didn't cost me anything. But, so they book a little something. I don't know what it is. But here's a good example. I watched our football senior day 2 years ago. And, all the seniors come out with their parents and they give them flowers, and before the game. And I think there were 25 on that day for their last game. And I think 19 of them were all graduate students. And I looked at those families, and you can tell just by looking. I looked at those families. These families would never even think to do a master's degree, much less invest another 15, 20, 25,000 in a master's degree. And for us to be able to give that to them, to me, is a game changer. And I've seen some of those students go on from there. I got one right now who's got a master's, and he's a principal of a little school in Louisiana, K-6. I'm so proud of him. And, that's a guy who never would have done that if we didn't give it to him. And we got all kinds of stories. It's just fun to be able to, if you got the resources. I mean, the goal of higher education is to be nonprofit. It's not to make a profit. And so many of these college presidents are judging their value by how much money they got in the bank. And let's judge it by how much good we do for the kingdom and for the world.
I absolutely love that. So, Roger, if you were talking to another president, because I feel like there's a deep anxiety in the industry right now, especially amongst presidents who are facing, and we've seen the numbers, there's a large segment of our industry where there are financial pressures. So you think about the changes that are happening with funding models. You think about, you mentioned the consumer perception of higher education before, but there frankly just aren't enough traditional students for the capacity that we have available anymore. So if you were guiding a college president, and I love the confidence in which, and your conviction that you have with the model that you've implemented, would you say that it's, the timing is right, or is it too late to turn the corner right now? If you're one of those institutions and you are talking to a president who's listening to this podcast right now, what would be the maybe step 1, 2, or 3 that they can take to maybe adjust to what I believe you're communicating is the new direction, new philosophy of higher education that triangulates where the consumer is, where the institution needs to be, and then the outcome?
Block out your calendar, bring your team, and lock in your spot, because Insights EDU early bird pricing ends December 15th. We'll see you in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. For 3 days, that will disrupt what you think you know about marketing and enrollment for today's modern learner. Support the EdUp experience for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life. You'll get ad-free early access to episodes. But hurry, price goes up after December 31st, 2025. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and click support the show.
Yeah. I put it in 3 steps. First step is, as president, you got to change your mindset. And you got to change your mindset not to have success until you can run off the clock and retire. And too many presidents, or get another place. Too many presidents are operating on a 4 to 5, 6 year time frame. If I can just make this go, I'll get a better one, and then things will be okay. I wrote a book called The Long View: Lasting Strategies for Rising Leaders, and the first chapter is about lead as if you'll be there forever. If you will change the mindset and lead as if you'll be there forever, then you put investment in the things that matter most, and you make the hard decisions that have to be made. And so many presidents are not making the hard decisions because they're going to pass them off, patch it together, make it look good until they can get another one, and then let the next person worry about it. And if you lead as if you'll be there forever, it changes how you do everything. no matter whether you're just starting out or whether you've been there a long time or what. So I really encourage presidents, you've got to have the outlook that this is my institution, is for this time, you're the steward, but lead it as if you'll be there forever. Second thing is you got to create a culture of transparency of communication. You got to tell people what's going on. Tell them what's going on with the finances. Too many schools are trying to hide it. And they're in financial trouble, and they're trying to hide their financial trouble. I mean, who are you hiding? First of all, business faculty know how to read a 990 and an audit and other kinds of stuff. Tell the story. My State of the University addressed this year to our staff and faculty. A third of it was about the state of higher education, what's going on, and what the challenges are, and where those pressure points are coming, because we're in a whole different territory. You've got to be open about where you are, what you're considering. I often talk about, we're thinking about doing this. Now, we don't have committees, so there's no way for them to come to a committee and say, I said, we're thinking about doing this. If you got an insight, let me know. Find me. Come see me. My email's easy. Let's talk about it. I want your insight. I go to the critics that I know are going to be about an issue before we make a decision. My feeling is you're always going to have to deal with the critics, so it's easier to deal with them before you make the decision than after. So I seek them out. You know who they are. You don't have to wait till it bubbles up. So I'm going to create a culture of real transparency, and then presidents are going to have to make some hard decisions. This is tough, and you can't keep everything and you can't fund everything you want to do, and you got to figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and get the leanest staff you can in order to make that work and get the money under control. My grandfather was a college president, and as was my father, a third generation, which is also unique to kind of my history. But my grandfather always said, being a college president is the best job in the world as long as you can pay the bills. And that is absolutely true. If you can't pay the bills, this is a horrible job. But if you can pay the bills, there's nothing better than the diversity and the joy and the capacity you have for good in the presidency. But I think presidents have got to make those hard decisions. Part of the reason they don't make the hard decisions is they don't plan to be there forever. So they're not dealing with that faculty member who's trouble. They're not dealing with that department who's overstaffed. They're not dealing with their athletics, which are out of control. They've got to deal with this stuff. And it's hard, it's difficult. And I've had to, in 30 years, I think I've had 3 times I've had to financially reboot. We used to have branch campuses. We funded this thing through branch campuses. I had 11 of them across the South. Well, that market went south, literally. And we had to close all of our branch campuses. Well, that put about 3 or 4 years of pain as we shifted our model from that to an online base. But you got to talk to people about that. You got to make those hard decisions, and then you get it out there. But you also then got to give them a vision for why you're doing this. If there's not a why, the rest of it doesn't matter. There's got to be a why. So much we talk about who, what, where, and how, and when. We don't talk about the why. The why is what makes people come and be part of our institutions, want to give themselves to it, want to sacrifice for it, want to own it. And, when I see my faculty and staff and their Facebook and other places and talking, owning this place, feeling possessive of it, I know we're there. We got a chance. Now, still, the margins are thin. They're going to be thin. It's not going back to how it was for most of us who are in small colleges. The richer ones are going to get richer, and the poorer ones are going to have thinner margins. And we just got to find a way to make it go.
Yeah, I think, Roger, the why that you mentioned there, I think it's one of the things that people feel.
When it is. Yeah, it's in your gut.
It is. It's, I've walked on college campuses, and I've gone straight to the president's office and said, I feel your why.
That's good.
Interaction between the student, myself at the coffee shop, or just the student worker working at the desk that let me into the building. But that why is so critical because it defines really who you are. Yeah. Roger, I have one more question. I'm going to sort of throw it back to Joe, but you describe an operation at Belhaven that I think many folks would be envious of. And it is, if I were to think of it as a scale, it is the perfect balance of inspiration, but also execution.
Hmm.
And you used the term corporate structure before. And I just want to peel away at that, because many times, and you've probably seen the publications where, folks will say, higher education is not a business, shouldn't be run like a business. But I feel like, purpose requires sustainability.
Yeah.
And you seem to found that balance, but you also found it in a way that lets you lean in and say, we're not going to be everything to everyone. We're going to offer the programs that define who we are. Is that really, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, what you see as the future for many institutions, sort of identifying where they're best going to operate, who they're going to best serve, and leaning into that, whatever that market is, to serve them well.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very, very much so. You've got to know who you are. You've got to know what you can do, know what you can do well and what you can't do well, and make that choice. One of the unique things about Belhaven, we didn't really talk about yet. We could, but I think we're out of time. But we don't have a long range plan. There is no long range plan for this institution. I did long range planning for years, and finally decided that's a waste of time. And so we got rid of it, the blue ribbon committees, all that stuff, it's all gone. And so we operate by capturing opportunities God brings to us rather than trying to predict the future. And because of that, that's part of why we have been able to get this balance between mission and operations, corporate culture, because it's really based on a theology of catching God's opportunities. I wrote another book about that. For those interested, it's called Opportunity Leadership, Stop Planning and Start Getting Results. And it really is how to implement and get away from long-range planning, because long-range planning is killing us. And, I got all kinds of reasons why. But when you get rid of long-range planning, well, then it just does come down to mission. What do you do and what do you don't do? And so then people say, well, how do you choose? Well, to me, it's three things: mission, gifting, capacity. Does it fit our mission? Does it really core to our mission? And if it is, then let's keep looking. Gifting. Do we have the right people? Do we have the gifts? Do we have the strengths in those areas to make this work? And then thirdly, capacity. Sometimes we're stretched to the limit, and other times we got space. And so we're really looking at those three things anytime we're looking at something new. And often I am always shocked at the new that comes to us. Absolutely shocked. I was sitting in this office 2 months ago with very little new on the plate. And right now I got a brand new partnership in China, fully online program that I never saw coming. Now, there's backstory, more friendships and connections and all kinds of stuff. And we've worked in China and we've got background there and stuff, but didn't see this one coming. But we were ready for it because we know our mission, we know our gifting, we know our capacity, and boom, we could go overnight. And, so getting rid of long-range planning has been the most freeing thing to me, to be able to adjust to the market, because by the time you see a market need and you put it through your committees and you get it ready to go, you missed it. It's over. Everybody else is already in. I want to be first in, or I want to be one of the first in, and see if we can get a foothold. And everything doesn't work. That's the other thing. We're willing to stop stuff. I mean, you go into something, you put a bunch of money into it, maybe you invested $500,000 for a school like ours. That's a lot of dough. And it didn't work. Well, pull the plug after 18 months. It didn't go. That just happens. It's an entrepreneurial outlook with hopefully more than just, venture capital outlook, but really saying what fits for us. What can we do well? What's our place in this mix of higher ed in the location we are in? We're in Jackson, Mississippi. God put us here on purpose. It's not the place you'd pick out to go make a university. But, when we serve the people who are under our umbrella, then it works.
Well, I've got 3 questions for you. We're going to keep you just a couple extra minutes.
Okay.
Brent just was rolling, so I didn't want to interrupt him. But you know what's fascinating about this, Roger, is how many employees over time would have a new president come in or new leader come in and think, you know what? The tenure of a college president these days is like 4 years and change. I'm just going to outlast them. But nobody outlasts you. So you better get on board, right? I mean, it's true. How many times higher ed hires, or if they tell the president they're not going to last, making all these changes, but you've lasted through eras of higher education. And so I want to ask you, this committee thing, when you said, by the way, for any higher ed administrator to have fear strike them in the heart when they're trying to drive an idea forward and someone says, let's get a committee together for that. Like that will strike here into an innovator's heart.
Yeah.
You said, we don't need a committee to prove we don't trust each other. And I was like, that just blew my mind, because I'm like, yes, that's exactly the case. We need to, it's like we need all these policing bodies because we don't believe that each person individually has the institution's best interest involved, or that the student's best interests are involved. Was there a point in your 34 years where you said that you can point back and go, this was when we eliminated the idea of committees at this university? Like these were the circumstances that led to that.
Well, I give credit to the provost who was here when I came in. He really had started that kind of trend, and we were down to maybe one or two at that point. And I kicked back on it at first, and because I'd come out of a setting where, I had lots of committees in my first presidency, and higher, and where I'd been a VP, but then I began to see how it worked. But then I realized what had to happen. The piece that was missing was the transparency of communication. You have just got to be solely transparent and tell it like it is. And if you try to hide stuff, yes, they deserve committees because they don't trust you. If you'll be open and prove it over time, and it takes a while to prove it, then you don't have to have them. But you've got to really create that. But yes, the scenario you described where faculty and others will think, oh, I'll last the president, is so absolutely true. When this is my second.
Say it out loud. They'll literally say it out loud if you get them in the corner.
This is my second presidency. Second presidency is the best job in all of higher education because you get all the stuff out of the way of the first one, and then you just want to go do the job of the second one. But my first presidency was at a school in Kansas, Presbyterian school in Kansas. And I always had a committee that I would think of informally as those who were going to be buried in the local cemetery. I knew they were going to be here forever. And I knew if I didn't win them over, it didn't matter what else got done because they had seen presidents come and go at that institution and they knew they could outlast them. Presidents have got to dig in, and they've got to dig in because they're called to the work, not called to the position. I get a lot of people ask me about being a college president. And my first question to them every time is, do you want to get the job or do you want to do the job? Because if you only want to get the job, you're going to hate it. If you just want the trappings of it, if you want the salary, you want the chain around your neck, you want to be at the head of the room, it's not worth it. Don't do it. Do you want to do the job? If you love doing the job, then there's no better job. And in fact, I had a friend who I've been counseling for 6 months who could be a fabulous college president. And he just wrote me last week and he said, your question just haunts me. And he said, I'm not there. I wanted the job too much and I got to wait until I don't want it before I'll do it. And I think presidents too often go in for the wrong reasons because, nice thing about a university president is you don't have to tell anybody what you do. They know. Everybody respects university president. So people want that position. And, if I retire tomorrow, which I'm not going to, I plan to go another 10 years, told my board, and they're encouraging.
There you go.
But, if I did, there'd be 100 applicants for this job overnight because people want the job. But do you really want that or do you really want to do it? I think that's where a lot of presidents just don't get started on the right foot.
Good point. Well, we'll wrap this up. We're going to ask you two last questions pretty quick. Number one, What else do you want to say about, let me try that again. What else do you want to say about Belhaven University? Maybe anything that we haven't said, anything that's top of mind, take it a minute and give us an open mic.
You know, to me, it's all about the faculty and the coaches and the staff that make this place go. It's not me. They're terrific, absolutely terrific. I don't have any weak links in the chain, and I don't think there are hardly any college presidents who could say that right now. They've all got people they wish who would leave. I don't. I mean, we're just so fortunate with the quality of people who've come together, and I think that comes out in the student experience, and it should. And because that's what it's all about. It's all about student experience, and so I just give them all the credit and the deep appreciation. I always wish I could pay them really what they're worth, but that's impossible. We do okay. University comes down to the people. I tell prospective students, one of the questions to ask when you're looking at institutions are these people you would like to be like? Because we're not going to clone you, but you tend to take on those nature, those values, those characteristics. And, I want to when I hire faculty and staff, I always think about my kids, what I want my kids sitting in their classroom, what I want my kids playing on their team. And because that's how it is for families. And so I think that's my responsibility.
Would you want your kids to listen to the EdUp Experience podcast? No, you don't have to answer that. Fine. Roger, tell us what you see for the future of higher education.
Oh boy, I don't know. I mean, what's going on with the bigs right now with the stuff with the challenge in Washington and all. I mean, they touched they touched the third rail of shared governance, which is wild. That's always been completely untouchable. And then they've exposed another third rail, which I guess I didn't realize because I don't live in the R1 world. Of research grants and how much they drive institutions. And when you're messing with both of those, and, there's talk of going to take over nationally the accreditation process and stuff, it's kind of scary to me. The challenge I have, we had a bill come up last year that really would have harmed us, significantly harmed us. Somebody's trying to make higher education more accountable. That's good, fine. They were going to pass policy, but it really would have hurt schools like ours. And I was talking with one of the top lobbyists for private higher education in Washington, and I said, don't they realize what that's going to do to a school like mine? And if they put us out of business, they don't get us back. We're done. We will never build back this structure of American higher education if it gets dismantled right now. And his response was, you're just collateral damage. And I'm sorry. But the bigger objective is what they're after. I don't really understand all that they're after. I'm just doing my thing in Mississippi to make it work and serve students, and it'll be what it'll be. And if it all falls apart, we're going to have one great party and say that was fun.
Something tells me it's not going to fall apart so easy down at Belhaven University. Brent, what do you think of this conversation, my friend?
Absolutely insightful. One of the best conversations we've had. But also really refreshing, Roger, because you're so action-oriented in terms of how you think about reacting to the trends that have already impacted higher education. So, looking forward to seeing even greater stuff come out of your university.
You are kind and generous, and I appreciate that much.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's Dr. Roger Herrick. He is the president at Belhaven University. And you know what you've done? You've just EdUp'd.
If you're afraid of success, this message isn't for you. Every year, higher ed talks about change. But Insights EDU 2026, it's the catalyst. The Modern Learner Report drops here first, revealing how learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. Spoiler, most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, real strategy, real data, only built for leaders ready to own their transformation. Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. EdUp Experience has brought you powerful conversations with more than 400 college presidents and higher ed leaders, over 1,000 episodes and counting. Now, we're inviting you to join us in shaping the future of higher ed podcasting. For just $5.99 a month, you lock in that rate for life, but only if you sign up before December 31st, 2025. As a supporter, you'll get ad-free early access to episodes. Prices go up after December 31st, but your rate never will. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and join our community today.